Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's webinar entitled Design Methods Working from Personal Fascination. I'm Yeti van der Made Hanning, the founding director of CCD-NL. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Miss Nikkie Wester. Nikkie is a designer and future heritage specialist, and today she's going to share how she gets inspirations for her designs. Today's webinar is the second lecture from 3 lectures on Tenun Ikat NTT Indonesia connecting to the Netherlands. In today's webinar, the CCD-NL finally materialized the cooperation with the Wasserai Rotterdam after a few failed attempts due to the corona restrictions. morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's webinar entitled Design Methods Working from Personal Fascination. I'm Yeti van der Made Hanning, the founding director of CCD-NL. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Miss Nikkie Wester. Nikkie is a designer and future heritage specialist, and today she's going to share how she gets inspirations for her designs. Today's webinar is the second lecture from 3 lectures on Tenun Ikat NTT Indonesia connecting to the Netherlands. In today's webinar, the CCD-NL finally materialized the cooperation with the Wasserai Rotterdam after a few failed attempts due to the corona restrictions. The Wasserai is an incubator for innovative fashions in Rotterdam, and in this collaboration, CCD-NL and Nikkie, as our lecturer today, have the opportunity to explore how the cooperation between Nikkie and fellow designers at the Wasserai, Lara Lukman and Lidwe van Twillert, contributes to the efforts to improve the quality of the craft from design, also how they as a designers connected and interact with the Tenun Ikat artisans to share and transmit knowledge for mutual benefits while maintaining cultural integrity of the craft. The organizational aspect of how cooperation between CCD-NL and the Wasserai meant for Ikat itself, from culture, history, design, product, and for the community, will be explored further. There are also representatives from 3 Tenun Ikat weaving groups in NTT actively participated at today's webinar, and they are Alfiana Boydau from Wehor Hadomi in Belu, Asmawet Fatu and Marsa Fatu from Rotendao, and Sharia Tole from Alor. They will share their efforts and struggles in preserving the craft and also during the pandemic. Well, we have a full house today. There are also beautiful dance performances, event promotion, Q&A with Zooming after the webinar, so please stay until the end. So without any further ado, on behalf of the boards of our directors, volunteers, and interns, I wish you all a wonderful time joining today's webinar. Dank u wel. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Hi, Ruth, thank you so much for having us here. Yeah, also Esther, thank you. I'm good, thank you. Just for the pandemic, of course, it has been hard for many of us. We have to work from home. Many of our appointments were cancelled. Me and Esther have made appointment since February, right?
Yes.
And we just managed to meet today. So this is also a cause of pandemic that our meetings are postponed or cancelled. But we are fine, and we are happy that we are here today again, right, Esther?
Definitely. Thank you for being here in the Wasserij in Rotterdam. And I'm really happy to finally meet Yeti in person, because we talked a lot over the phone in the last month and over email. And we are also good here in Wasserij. We are a hub with a lot of fashion entrepreneurs. It's been definitely a struggle since March, since the lockdown. But what is really nice to see, and what is also giving me a lot of hope, is that creatives are very good in finding ways to rebuild their business, rethink, find creative solutions to handle this pandemic. And I look at that with a lot of admiration and respect. So it also brings a lot of new ideas. I think that is good.
As I said earlier, that we were planning to do a collaboration with our project that we're supposed to go to Indonesia, right?
Yes.
I don't know if you know that we are planning to go to Indonesia, in fact, last June, with a team of Dutch designers that we wanted to collaborate with the Indonesian artisans, but due to Corona and all the lockdown and the trip cancels the project also, we are not cancelling it, but we postpone it. So we see as a potential for us to work with, because Wasserai also one of their main, one of probably your main concern and focus in textile. And within this project of binding with ICAD, we are working with textile, and also Wasserai is in Rotterdam, and we are also in Rotterdam, and we are also trying to promote the city of Rotterdam through art and culture. Of course, we are not promoting city of the Rotterdam, but we promote our work, how to fit within the framework of Rotterdam city, and so that we see the potential to work with the Wasserai, even though the project, physical project was postponed, but we come online, and for the moment, we are trying to see how can we work with Wasserai through the online with the new method of new normal. Yeah, that's what we say.
Yeah, I think what is nice is that we are right now sitting in the space where we were supposed to do our physical collaboration. As Yeti said, we got in touch because the Wasserai hosts a festival every year. And this year it was supposed to happen in November, and the theme is hyper-local. And we are, on the one hand, looking around us here in Rotterdam about, towards what material is being made in the city, who are the makers, what are their strategies. And I think in looking towards the future of fashion, which is really the main objective of the Wasserai as a community, we really try to gather around us a group of people that are working for a better, towards a better future for fashion. We always are looking for solutions in innovation, but I truly really believe that if we look at traditional textiles and the culture, indigenous cultures and the way they use textiles, there are so many ancient old solutions that we now think are new, but they are 1,000 years old. And for the festival, I really wanted to collaborate with Yeti. I would find it so lovely that people that are, for example, working on the science of coloring textiles with bacteria, it all sounds very futuristic. It would be lovely if they could see how natural dyes work, for example, in Indonesia, and see how that was in the past. And I think there are very interesting links to be made. So now that we cannot do the physical collaboration, I think we are trying to connect our networks. Yes. And this is the start?
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
Yes. I don't have a specific project in mind yet, but I think with these kind of collaborations, it definitely already starts with people like Yeti and I introducing people to each other that would never meet each other without our help. That is the start always of creative collaboration. And what is nice is that we both represent this kind of network. I was part of your first webinar, and I was so happy because I saw all these craftspeople from Indonesia working with ICAD. How would I ever meet these people? Yeah. So I thought, wow, I really want to connect them to the designers that have a studio in the Wasserai. And the beautiful thing about designers is that you don't have to tell them, please make this project, but you have to tell them, please talk to this person, and then things sometimes emerge that you would never expect. And I think that that's what I'm hoping this experiment, could we call it, would result into. I'm not so sure if there's actually a lot of differences, but I think in our current context, when you look at fashion, when you ask people what does fashion mean, they think about some kind of Western explanation of what fashion is, and maybe when they look at ICAD, they don't consider it fashion, but of course it is. So I think that's also something we can really learn from each other, that fashion and traditional textiles are very strongly connected to each other. It's where the original fashion comes from. And when you look very specifically at examples, for example, looking again at natural dyeing, that is something that, I mean, that was not invented yesterday. That is something that has been around for ages. And I think young designers are trying to look again into those traditional textile techniques.
To me, is modern doesn't mean that always new.
Exactly.
So modern means that, and the title or the theme of this collaboration is bonding with ICAT for past and present and future. So that is why we see that ICAT is not only working in the past, but it is also contextual to the present and also for the future. So to collaborate with organizations like the Wasseray that who focus on also with the experiment or new way of doing it, ICAT fits very much with it. And if we want ICAT to be longer or to have value present in the future, then we also have to look at those elements. How can we integrate those elements into ICAT without sacrificing the cultural integrity of ICAT? And that is also the main goal of our work, that we want to bring ICAT into the level of present today, how can be meaningful today and for the future, but while without we sacrificing the cultural integrity of ICAT. So I see what is modern and it doesn't mean that everything has to be new.
Exactly, and I think it's also, there are so many different aspects around the topic of ICAT. Of course, it's about the material and how it looks, but it's also about a certain kind of community.
Yeah.
And that is not very common anymore in the modern fashion world.
Yes.
That it's all about, especially in the Netherlands for the last 20 years, it's been all about ideas. Fashion is about ideas, but very few fashion designers know how to make something. Whilst it is so important, and designing and creating ideas from the material, most of the time when people start learning that, they come to totally different solutions. So I think there is really where the interesting crossover and cross-inspiration might be. And yeah, I love this idea of community. I love that people form a community around a specific skill. So I would love to learn more about it as well. Yeah.
And may I add a bit? Because ICAT in Indonesia meaning tie and bind. So meaning that there is nothing done alone. There should be a connection to another. And another thing also that ICAT in entity, particularly in the region, it's function to wrap the body. So this is also
like a blanket, you mean?
Yeah. Not just blanket, but becoming a clothing. Yes. So in the different form, like now, also fashion in Indonesia are also turned to ICAT. Many young people, young designers, or also senior designer, well experienced designer are very much to ICAT because they see that this is a heritage that not only living in the past but also living in the today, and can be also to preserve it for the future. That we have to strengthen today, based on the past. ICAT in the past function basically for status, social status. So only a certain group of people have a hierarchy, have lots of symbol and meaning, and one of it is also that to honor your guests, usually we give ICAT. So let's say if you visit my place for the first time, you will be given ICAT, or in collaboration and cooperation, we also give ICAT as a symbol of binding. Yeah, so ICAT itself meaning tie and binding, and also that they also do it in the practical way, or also in the social life every day. That ICAT, so ICAT is not only function as a cover of the body, but also function in the social or rituals, and also festive to welcome guests and honor. So it's part of it. Yeah. So this is the ICAT that coming from Rote Island, and it's interesting when today I came here, a good friend of us, she is also a volunteer, has been always helping us, drove me, and she said that is the river of Rote. And I said, what? And I was like, I carry now Rote ICAT that I brought to the Wasseray.
Oh, that's nice.
So I was like, wow, what a coincidence.
This is the motto?
Yeah, so this is the ICAT from Rote Island.
Oh, I see.
Yes, so we don't know still where it is the ideas are coming to this since when a lots of motifs and variation, but this ikat is part with the Rotterdamese people life for so many centuries. Even you can't find a right source when was it. And as then probably you could look at the symbols and the motifs here. You find cross, you find candles, and these are coming from the Netherlands. Yes. So before that, the Rotterdamese ikat was predominantly with leaves. Yeah, you can also find leaves here. Leaves are here. Yeah. Also, basically showing about the nature. But the coming of the Dutch in the island of Rotterdam has a very strong history with the Netherlands. It started the connection with the Netherlands in 1600, and for that, the influence of Dutch in Rhode Island is quite strong. They have a very strong history, and that is also you can see in the ikat, how they implemented cross and candle. And Rhode Island also, this is the only island that majority is Christian in Indonesia. So having said that, why I brought this textile, it is not just to sew ikat, but somehow we wanted to reconnect with the past. Yeah. That how the Dutch and the Indonesians, the Rotterdamese, implement their ideas or their history into this ikat. So this is what this ikat is. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Since we are not allowed to come closer, we have to respect the rules. In Indonesia, usually the tradition is that we put the textile in your solza, but this is the textile now, so feel free to take it and put
Can
it.
I?
Yes, that is for us, that is yours.
Well, on behalf of all the residents of the Wasserij, thank you so much. It's extremely lovely, and I know how nice it
you
fits
did it so well. You did it so well.
I know that there are a few designers that are a little bit familiar with your work and with ikat already.
Yes.
I think in the webinar that will follow our talk, there will be a meeting with Laura Luchtman, who loves these textiles, but there are more, and I hope that we can make some beautiful connections in the future.
Yeah, wonderful. And I want to add that also, Esther, in the past, the ikat from this island is very beautiful, also well made with beautiful cotton or somehow with some little bit of silk, and also with a very nice natural color. But however, what you have now is not a natural color. So this is also the message that we wanted to bring into that. How can we help this tradition back to the past that was so powerful, so beautiful, so with high quality, and very much concerned about environment and nature. And so we give you the whole package, the present and also the message that how can we work together to help the community to get back to the what was precious in the past.
Yes, thank you. It's extremely lovely. And I will wear it with pride. Yes, I'll keep it with pride. Yeah. Thanks. So the first talk will be between Laura Luchtman, who's part of the Living Color Collective, and Nikkie Wester, who's working with you. And I think that the talk will be joined by people from your community, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and ours, of course.
Yes.
So hopefully a lot of meetings and a lot of connections will be made.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Welcome everybody at this second webinar initiated by CCD-NL. First of all, again, thank you Jetty van der Made Haning and CCD-NL team for organizing this event. And thanks to all participating designers for your effort and your enthusiasm. The first webinar in this series handled cultural heritage, its definition, as well as the inspiration it provides to designers all over the world. Different from the previous webinar will be the number of interviews in this edition. You will hear about various design methods, firstly, by a general overview of the most common approaches, but secondly, through talks with Indonesian artisans involved with the CCD-NL community, as well as designers active at the wasserij. I hope to give you an overview of conventional creational methods to provide inspiration, of course, as well as a platform of knowledge and expertise exchange within this CCD-NL community, but of course also with all others who watch this webinar. Here another designer for this webinar, this time Liedewij van Twillert. She's also a designer working from the wasserij in Rotterdam, the partner that Yeti just introduced. Liedewij, you call yourself a fashion design engineer, and you are owner of Arie van Twillert, a lingerie and jewelry label. Can you give a short introduction on yourself and what you do with your label Arie van Twillert?
Yes, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. With Arie van Twillert, I try to create products and garments that people will cherish, so they will take better care of it and they will last longer. I do this by adding value with adding stories to the design. So there's a story behind every design, and also all designs can be personalized to you. So custom fit, but also custom aesthetics. In that way, I want to create a stronger connection between the garment and its wearer. Yeah, so that's the goal of what I do with Arie van Twillert.
Okay. This webinar is especially about the designing technique, and as discussed with Esther, we made a selection of people who have a different approach to design and to creating design. And one of the reasons we invited you and I'm interviewing you is because you've got a very special approach, technologically wise and science wise. Can you explain us more about your creative and creation process during working?
Yes. My background is actually not in fashion, but in engineering, so industrial design engineer. I was trained at, and that's like immediately I'm turned on when something involving science or technology is on my path. And while designing, I first create a framework for myself. To work within, and that framework is mostly based on science and technology. So that's the start of when I design.
Okay, and this framework, can you explain this further? How you is this a boundary you have to create yourself, otherwise you get lost, or is this a boundary you get from clients?
Yeah, it's kind of. Is the start of my process, and mostly I create it actually myself. It comes naturally actually, because when I have found the inspiration is the framework actually. So if science is like really 1 and 1 is 2, so that's a really clear framework in that sense. But that actually inspires me to explore the boundaries of that framework.
Okay, clear. An important part of the CCD-NL society, I told you already, is the ikat weaving, and also a big part of it is natural dyes. So I'd like to ask some questions about the color choices you do during your work. Color also plays an important role in your work. Can you tell us more about how you choose colors or how you define the color choices for your designs?
Yes, well, I'm mostly, it starts with intuition really. And for my water drift collection, I used graphs of water levels, and these actually one of the graphs already had a really interesting color palette, which was just total random, because a scientist is not like picking colors with, oh, this looks nice together. So, but these kind of contrasting colors, I I chose the best tones of each colors in that sense. And then that was actually working so well already. That was just like an easy choice to say. But for my new collection, I kind of had some trouble defining the colors because I work with a singer and she also had preferences, of course. And I mostly work with very bright colors, but this time she kind of didn't really like it. And the start for my color palette was actually the Living Color project of Laura and Ilva, because I really liked that purplish color. So that was the start, and that's already a bit pastel. But yeah, because that was the start of the color palette, I kind of had some trouble to make it like spark actually. So yeah, but I finally now I succeeded, I think, but was more of a challenge than the other. They just came naturally.
And how did you find the spark color? Was it just experimenting, or?
Yeah, just laying these different tones together. And actually I added white to the purple palette because that's giving that more fierce look. And I also have a kind of peach palette, and there I added black. And that was because I was like, should I add another like super bright color? But that's really, then it would become a circus. So I think I'm now really happy with the colors.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm also really curious what I will make with it actually. So we'll see.
Okay, clear. So use of more contrast. I want to go back to your previous part. You call yourself a fashion design engineer. Can you try to define what makes your approach and your design approach unique in comparison to other designers?
Yes, well, I'm not super familiar with other people's design process. But I think, yeah, starting with a straight away visualization of, yeah, I'm not sure actually.
What inspires you most about working with technology and science?
Well, it's just an immediate reaction in my head that goes off when I see some, like, with the water drift collection, it was really clear. It was actually a project called Task Force Fashion, which brought all these designers together to tackle a societal problem, and that was the rising sea levels. So it's kind of super far apart, fashion and rising sea levels. But we had two kind of workshops or lectures. First one was at the water management office, and there they explained how they manage all the water in the Netherlands, because we're really below sea level, so there's lots of water pump stations that keep our feet dry. And then when we did a game where we simulated like overflooding almost, so you had to really manage and work together with all the stations to keep the feet dry. And there were all these formulas and graphs coming along, and my head was immediately turned on by that. I was just so like hyper on energy. I really find it fascinating because there were really odd graphs as well. I didn't really see these kind of graphs before. So it was really inspiring to me. It's also really maybe a literal translation of the technology to the lingerie, but I like straightforwardness actually. So I'm not sure how other people get their inspiration, but this is, I think, how I get mine.
Okay. You just told us you start with a framework, with the design framework. Do you start your designs by drawing, or is it immediately digitalized? Because you say technology plays an important role. Can you tell us more about the design process from idea to finalized design?
Yes, well, I do some doodling, but it really doesn't look anything like anything serious yet. But so I go straight, yeah, pretty fast. Go to Illustrator to design my work because it really works really quickly for me, and I like geometric, clear lines in my work. So doesn't really need any acro kind of sketching methods. Anyways, I really like it to be yeah, super clear lines, high contrast. So that works really well in Illustrator, and because the technology sometimes is also digital, so you can immediately translate it instead of like drawing something that, yeah, so it works really well for me. And then I do some material research where I try to visualize what I have in my head in reality, and then I start implementing it in actual garments. And
So
I first make a test model for fits, and then the real thing.
So the products that you design are almost always tangible in comparison to your designs, which are completely digital.
Yeah, so my design method is pretty digital indeed. And then, but I do, like, I'm now working on this new project, and I make some paper prototypes, for example, where I line all this is the sound wave of the singer I'm working with. And this is then a material sample I created, so also with her sound wave. And it's 3 layers of tulle embroidered together and then cut away where I don't, so you get this really gradient kind of idea. So this is already pretty tangible, I guess.
Do you notice a difference in your designing method when you work for self-initiated projects in comparison to projects you do for clients?
Well, the projects I do for clients are more if I make a custom fit bra for them, for example, and then it's really just kind of copying the design I made before to their measurements. So that's not, for me, that's not really the most fun thing to do, to be honest. It's just like repeating what I've done before, but then to different sides. So that's what I mostly do for clients. But when I start a new project, new collection, then I can just let my mind be free, and that's what I love to do the most. So that's actually the difference. Yeah,
you developed quite an interesting approach. The reason why I got to know you was because of the water project, the water lingerie project. Can you tell us more about the initial idea? You just said you got hyper when seeing all these graphics that were not being the graphics you were used to. But can you tell us more about the initial idea for this project and how you translated this into a collection?
Yes, so yeah, I was turned on by the graphs and by the technology, I wanted to visualize that we shouldn't take our dry feet for granted, especially in the Netherlands, by actually showing these were graphs of a really heavy rain in 2017. One from the Amsterdam canals, the water levels in the Amsterdam canals, and the other from the Bosom water pump station. So that's a funny word joke, you could say. That's the lowest areas in the Netherlands where, but it was a really heavy rain and all the water pump stations made over hours and they worked really hard to manage everything and they just worked through the night. So, but if you just cycle through the streets which are wet, you don't really think about that there's lots of work that makes sure it's not 1 meter high. And I also didn't know how much work was being done. So that was actually the goal of the collection, to make people aware of that. Well, if sea levels are rising more, maybe the work wouldn't even be possible to still do, because it's just too much. So that was the actual goal of that collection. I think that answered the question.
Yeah, that answered the question perfectly. And in general, what message do you like to send to the world with your designs, or with Arie van Tullert?
Yeah, so what I mentioned in the beginning is that we also take for granted the clothes we wear, the people that work on it, and the resources that are needed for it. So my main goal is to make people aware of how much effort it actually costs to create a garment, and you shouldn't treat it like a piece of cheese of €5 that you can throw, like maybe if it's not good enough you can throw away, or like a throwaway product. And my main goal is to make people aware of that you should cherish and treat your garments well. That's the main goal.
Okay, and how do you try to communicate that via design? Are there certain tips and tricks you use to get people to create more a user's product bond?
One thing is also to have the option to make it personal for somebody. So to make, if the aesthetics are kind of projected onto the body. So actually, not only if you make it custom fit, it also is custom for the aesthetics. So the aesthetics change a bit on every different person. And the other one is to really have a layered story. First of all, I think if you want to tell stories with design, art, or fashion, I think first of all it should be aesthetically pleasing, or even beautiful, but beautiful is maybe harder to test because tastes different, but you can sometimes agree that something is really ugly, and then I don't really get the raison d'etre of that, because if you want to tell a story, it works better if people are drawn to it, because then they think, oh, that's beautiful, and then they are maybe looking through the other layer of what this design has to say. So that's my opinion on design and fashion, that beauty should not be underestimated.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very good tip. Besides working hard to keep your practice fruitful, how do you create time to keep inspired and keep these fresh ideas coming?
The task force project was actually, I was given the opportunity to be part of that project. So that was just like a gift of inspiration. I feel like that. And now I also have a great passion for music. So even before the task force project, I was thinking about doing something with music. And then I came up, I wanted to do something with a voice, and then preferably a singer, to also have this personal aspect. So create garments with the voice of a singer, visualize the singer's voice into a garment, so the singer can wear her own voice. And with this, my new collection is about this. And I encountered Anna, that's a singer, and she also sings about sustainable fashion and climate change. So also for other people that are wearing her voice, they will be able to wear the message of sustainable fashion. So it all comes together. But for my next collection, I don't really have an idea yet, but we'll see.
Okay. And during your career, what important lesson did you learn, or what kind of wisdom did you gain that you'd like to share with the community?
Well, I have developed 3 years. I've developed my method of creating like a custom fit bra based on a 3D body scan, including replacement of the underwire that's also made completely custom. It's just lying here. It's this the curvaris. So it's double curved and then based on your 3D body scan and 3D printed. And if you are developing a new product, I would say start testing it with users if it has some functionality, but don't. I was kind of educated as a scientist, kind of in a scientist way. So you have to make all circumstances the same and have enough people participating in your research. So I had 30 people to test with, but I actually didn't really have that much experience making bras. So if I would do it again, I would just start with 5 first and try to make a really good bra for them, and then say, okay, this phase is over, and then 5 more, and then improve, instead of trying to do them all at the same time. That's one advice I can give. And another one is really listen to what you want to achieve. There were certain paths I could take to more in the startup tech corner, but I was always being strong-headed there and really not wanting to do what I was told, kind of, because it just wasn't for me. It's a really profitable, like, capitalist way of working. Grow as fast as you can and then have an exit strategy so you can cash a lot and find investors. And I was like, that was not for me. So, but I had to find out that in 2 or 3 years before I was really like, okay, I'm gonna say goodbye to this this path. But maybe if I was really listening to myself, I could say goodbye to that sooner. Mm-hmm. But who knows? I'm not sure if I do it again, if I would have made different decisions.
What dream do you have for the future of Arie van Twillert and for you as a designer?
I want to become a more established brand and want to set the example for body fashion, you call it, so everything related to closely fitted garments. And I also would love it to have this underwear be one of the new standards of in lingerie, and be like a pioneer in ultra personalized products in that sense, and make this more normal. So this personalization will become easier for consumers to accept as well.
Okay. And you know about CCD-NL now. What do you hope that CCD-NL community can help you with or can offer to you?
I would be I'm now working on my next collection, but I have no clue yet what I'm gonna do after that in terms of the artistic development of my brand. So maybe they can offer me a framework to work within, to discover new technologies within this, within the traditional techniques, for example. That would be really cool. I think that would be really cool. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for this inspiring interview and for the insights of your designing technique. I think the technological part is something you don't hear often, at least in the field of textiles. So thank you for that. And yeah, hope to see you in the future.
Yes, thank you for the chat.
Thank you, Laura. Laura Luchtman from Kuka Design here to do this interview with us today. We will talk about designing techniques and how you get inspired in the first place, and about having a design practice and everything that inspires you in general. So I'd like to do this short interview with you.
Yes.
Well, first of all, who are you? I just mentioned your name and your company, but who are you and what do you do with Kuka?
Yes, I'm Laura. Kuka is a textile and surface design studio based in Rotterdam. I'm based in the Wasserij, which is a fashion hub here in Rotterdam, and I design prints and patterns for textiles, but also for clothing, wallpaper, now fashion and home goods mainly. And I also do my own self-initiated research. And then I really focus on experimental color research and material research. I do it for clients, but I also work on my own projects. So yeah, both.
Okay, super interesting. We know each other via the Wasserij, but I know, and I've met you before during one of the events of CCD-NL. Well, it's interesting to know, for me at least, how did you get to know CCD-NL?
I think it was over a year ago in May. I got an invitation of one of the interns of CCD-NL for the Binding with ICAT event in May. And I was really interested. So I showed up to see what the event was about, because I'm always fascinated by all kinds of textile techniques and craftsmanship. And I've always loved ICAT. So yeah, and then I went to the first meeting. And then I also went to the second meeting, which was about Kazuri, the Japanese ICAT. And then I think I've been to every meeting, and I met you in The Hague at the embassy. So yeah, and I think in the beginning of this year, I went to Japan, and I also visited some ICAT or Kazuri weavers in Japan. And that was right at the beginning of the COVID pandemic here. So I had to return early, and I wrote a blog about it, and I sent it to Yeti, and they asked me to do an interview about what the designers and the weavers in Japan face now in these COVID times. So for the Kazuri brochure. So yeah, that's that's how I'm involved with the CCD-NL.
Okay, that's quite a lot. So you're already involved. I did not know that you did an interview, which is super nice. You should share this blog after this webinar with the group. It would be nice to reshare it so everybody can read it.
Yeah.
But that's of course the overlapping fascination for crafts and for the craft ICAT in general. But is there something that triggers you also about the goals of CCD-NL behind this fascination for artisanry?
Yes, I really like the efforts in reviving the old and ancient techniques, but also preserving the craftsmanship and the heritage, which is, well, here, at least in the Netherlands, all these techniques we had, like back in the day, all disappeared, mostly, and also in Western Europe. And I think in like Indonesia, for example, there are a lot more people that do still have the knowledge and do still know how to do these crafts. So I think it's really important that these things don't get lost and that they are preserved. Yeah, that's because when I'm thinking about the Netherlands, I think some of these techniques we have here just got lost within 2 generations, which is crazy when you think about it. So if you're not careful, it can disappear within 2 generations, and then all these old traditions and centuries of crafts and techniques are gone. You can never get it back. Not in the same way. So it's really important.
And do you see of course, that's something that triggers you, and do you feel it in your heart. At least that's what I see with CCD-NL. It's you have this chance to act now, and maybe sometimes in the Netherlands you already have the feeling, oh, it's long lost and gone. It's
Yeah, true.
Yeah. More on your process and more on how you get to design. I'd like to hear more about your creative and creation process. Can you tell me more about it?
Well, I always start my projects with some kind of research. It can be research into a certain topic that I don't know enough about yet, or it can be research into a client or a brand or their end user. So it depends. In my own projects, I have more time to do the research part, so I will go more in depth, and I really love it to get all these kinds of knowledge and read books and start my concept from there. So I start with the research, then I develop the concept, and the concept I'll always visualize with inspirational images, colors, materials, motifs, and then when I have this visual concept, I will start designing.
Okay, and this designing, that's the creative process. Do you have a certain method for it? How do you get to a certain shape or combination?
Yeah, well, I always keep, like, the end product that I'm designing, I always keep it in mind when I start the design process. So I always think about who is going to use it or who is going to wear it, in what season. Is it a design that will last long time, like many years? So it has to be kind of timeless. So I will, determine the shapes and colors that are not too trendy, so it will last longer. And I also design mostly on my computer, but I also draw and design by hand and then digitalize it afterwards. But I think I missed working with my hands, like a couple of years back when I was only working behind my computer all day. And so now I start to work with my hands more and do some little prototypes with my hands, like little weaves or and drawing by hand as well.
Just to get this creation back in this tactility and inspiration.
Yes.
Material,
Yeah, I really miss the tactility part. Yeah,
especially in textile, it's a very important part.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. You said before in answer to your previous question that you already in the mood board phase or in the inspirational phase, you choose on a certain set of colors. How do you get to choose a certain color scheme? I'm asking this question because we have the discussion within CCD-NL with the artisans between using natural colors and artificial colors and colors of the season or timeless colors. Is that something you are aware of, and how do you choose it?
Yes, what I also said with how I started design process, the same I do with color. So I'm already thinking about what am I going to create, what kind of product is it. Sometimes I don't know. When I'm designing textiles for textile manufacturers, I don't really know the end product that I'm going to make with the textile, so that's a little different. But I also always try to see what the function is. So that's how I determine colors, by looking at seasons, if it has to be trendy, what the age group is, or what kind of culture, or even skin tone, or but it's also very intuitional, or what's the word? It's also a very intuitive process. Yeah, and so I think I also choose colors part of my personal preferences, which also change throughout the years.
Two questions on that. You talk about seasonal or trendy colors, is there a magazine or a trend forecast that you'd like to follow for the color design or the upcoming colors for the next year?
Yeah, there are several. I always look at the Pantone, of course, which is the color standard I use a lot. They also have these seasonal and yearly color trends. I look at Lenzing, which is a textile yarn manufacturer. They have really beautiful color prognosis. And the WGSN, that kind of trend forecasting platforms. So when I really have to work with trendy colors, then I use these kinds of platforms to see what the latest trends are, and then I make my own color combinations and my own palettes based on those trends.
And I can imagine that that totally depends on when you're working for a client who already has a certain client group or trend forecast that they like to follow in comparison to self-initiated projects.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about this intuitive process. Can you try to explain the feeling behind this? Because for a designer, being intuitive can be something totally logical, but for outsiders, this sounds like something very conceptual. Can you try to put a name to it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think everyone has an intuition, I think, but as a designer, I think it's in some way it's a feeling. I think it's just a thing you develop throughout the years when you're working with all kinds of textiles, colors, trends, clients, products. But it's also kind of a voice in my head that guides me. So it's if I'm like having a discussion with myself or something. So on one hand, it's a feeling. On the other hand, it's sort of a voice. But it's also, I think the voice is kind of guiding me and telling me what the right choice is. But it's based on like the client, the trends, the use, but also my own preferences and my gut feeling, basically. So it comes together.
Yeah, clear? Yeah, for me, clear. Thanks for trying to explain further. I was wondering, there are, of course, way more designers in this world, and there are multiple designing methods, and we're just discussing your method today. But I was wondering what makes it special, Laura Luchman's method, or what is your technique or your signature?
Yes, always very hard to say that about yourself.
Yeah, it's not easy. I know.
Hardest question. Yeah, but I think because I like concept development so much that I always have these well thought out concepts and like layers within a design or a concept or a trend or whatever. And I really like that designers can solve problems in a creative way. So I'm always looking at what are the problems my client faces or that I've noticed in society or in the industry. And I try to find a creative way to solve that problem. And I think what also distinguishes me from maybe other designers or other practices or the industry in general is that I have a long-term view. On one hand, I work with these short-term trends, but I always try to see what will the implications be in the future. So I'm very future-focused, I think.
Yeah, that's very good and very, I think also going on the trend now, because I see a lot of designers changing from mass production to more made-to-measure, more timeless designs. I think it's a very good vision to go on. Yeah, also the reason why I have future heritage, of course. But yeah, that's a good one. And you described this uniqueness. Is that something why clients also find you, or is there a difference between the uniqueness you present for your clients in comparison to the uniqueness you define for your self-initiated projects?
Yes, I think my clients hire me for all kinds of different reasons. It can be my fresh color palettes that I use for swimwear mostly, you know. Yeah, there's certainly a difference between my self-initiated projects and my client work. But I think the concept part in combination with my design style, I think that is what brings them to me. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to know more about one of your self-initiated projects in particular. That's the reason why Esther from the Wasserij originally connected us together, because you did this amazing project with bacterial dyes and natural dyes, and I'd like to hear all the aspects of this project. So how did you get to this idea? How did the process go? Everything. Please enlighten us.
Yes. So I'm doing, I think for 3 years now, I'm researching how to dye textiles in hopefully a more sustainable way by using bacteria that produce pigments. And these bacteria just live in the soil near the roots of plants, and some live on your skin. And so these bacteria, when you grow them in large colonies, so you can see them with the naked eye because normally you cannot see them. And then they start producing colors, and it's not really known yet why they produce those colors, but scientists think it's because the pigments help them protect each other from UV light or from other microorganisms, because the pigments have antimicrobial qualities in them. And I got to know these bacterial pigments at a course in 2006. At Waag Society in Amsterdam. It was called Textile Academy, and one of the workshops was bacterial pigments. And I was so fascinated by it because I'm always very fascinated by the micro world, you know, the things you cannot see with the naked eye. And when you put something under a microscope, a whole new world, you see a whole new world. So that was always super fascinating for me. And because I'm a print and pattern designer, there are mainly 3 things that I can control within my designs or crafts: it's color, shape, and material. And I was always thinking about the pollution, which is a very big problem in the textile industry. And I want to contribute something positive to that problem. So that's why I was very fascinated by these bacterial pigments, because when you grow them, you don't need any kind of toxic chemicals to grow them, and also not to dye the fabric. Because what we do is we have these bacteria, we grow them in a nutrient, which is a kind of a broth, is a liquid. And then we add textile, and then we place the bacteria on the textile, and then we leave them for 3 days. And within 3 days, the bacteria start multiplying, and they start producing pigment. And the pigment really attaches at the same time to the textile. So after 3 days, you have a colored textile, which is really amazing. So, and we don't use any high dyeing temperatures. For example, we don't use a lot of water. So those are really good qualities of this dyeing process, which is hopefully more sustainable, even if you could scale it, because now it's all in a small laboratory, on a small scale. So the scaling part is a big challenge still.
That's the bottleneck for now.
Yeah, it is. I have some examples from the bacteria dyes. These are like fabric swatches. This is a dyed silk and hemp blend, dyed with bacteria that produce a purple pigment. We also have another type of bacteria that produces a red pigment, and when you dye textiles with it, you end up with these like pinkish, different kinds of shades of pink. This is on silk. You can see it. So, and what I also like about these bacterial colors is that they don't really look like natural colors. When you see them, they could also look like synthetic colors. So I think that's also a big advantage. And we can dye synthetic fabrics and fabric brands. So
that's also a great advantage, because the synthetic dyeing process can be so chemical and so hurtful for the environment. Yeah, if you do this by bacteria, it's great. You just mentioned about this project that it's still in a scale up phase, and that the bottleneck is to scale up. But at the same time, I've read more about your project. You've already got some worldwide recognition with this small project, you call it yourself. Can you tell us more about this, this success with the project?
Yeah, when I started the project, of course, I had no clue it would end up like this. But I started the project because as an individual designer, I wanted to collaborate. I wanted to contribute something positive to the industry and want to create change from within. But of course, as an individual, you can feel really overwhelmed by all the problems there are, and it's impossible to solve those by yourself. But I think what this project really did for me, and what it shows, is that this is a project that I started with another designer. We are just the two of us. And this project really gave us a worldwide stage to talk about the issues, to offer possible solutions, and to create a mindset change in people and to inform them to make more conscious choices. So we've exhibited around the world. We've also had press from all kinds of media from around the world. And I think that way we also got approached by the worldwide known brand Puma, the sportswear brand, that we developed a proof of concept, like a small collection this year. So we designed and created a sportswear collection for them, which is the first bacterial dyed sportswear collection in the world, which is really exciting. It's not for sale, it's not commercial yet, because we cannot do it on a large scale, but this really shows that this biodesign and this designing with bacteria has potential, and it's not a utopian concept.
Yeah, I think it's a very good message when a big company like, for example, Puma, recognizes what is happening, recognizes the potential of it, and also takes the step to put trust in you guys to put only this concept collection already there instead of having this commercial thing there. Do you think that if it's scalable, that you will collaborate in the future? Is that a possibility?
Yes, certainly. We are trying to find ways to scale it, not by doing everything ourselves, but also by collaborating with other startups that are doing the scaling part. So it would be really great to have a collection that can actually be sold. Yeah, but I do really want to stress that it's not going to be a collection for mass production, because then it wouldn't make sense, So we want to sell every piece we create. We don't want to waste anything. So that's
going on your basic idea on production in general. Yeah. It's good that you honor that. You speak about collaboration in this project, and you speak about collaboration with startups. Is collaboration with other designers something you do regularly, or something that you like to do with projects?
Now, mostly I work by myself. This project, I've been collaborating with the other designer, Ilva, for 3 years now. So that's quite unusual for me, I think. Mostly I collaborate with other disciplines. So not with other designers, but other disciplines like stylists, photographers, scientists. That's mostly the people I collaborate with. But I'm always open to collaborate with anyone, but collaborating with the other designer, I have to make sure that we are not doing the same thing, I always try to find people with other skills or other networks, or so you can really complement each other, but we have to have the same vision. That's important. And you also have to be a nice person to work with. Yeah,
Exactly,
be
that,
fun.
yeah, very important. Yeah, you already stole my next question about what kind of skills you seek when you're looking for collaborations, but you already answered that. I think it's very good to look at yeah, skills and perspectives that are not your own, but can be additional to your own practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And besides working hard to keep Kuka fruitful, how do you create time to get inspired and keep inspired and get fresh ideas?
Well, my inspiration really comes from everywhere, but I draw a lot of inspiration from nature and also from art. So what I like to do in my spare time, or also sometimes in my work time, is go visit an exhibition, a museum. And I also really like to do nothing, you know, like clear my head, go to the beach, take a long walk, because I think the best ideas always come to me when I'm doing a kind of routine task, like doing the dishes or cleaning or taking a shower. So yeah, I think moments when I'm not really thinking about anything particular, like taking a walk or doing these routine tasks, that is when my best ideas come. And of course, they have been brewing and for a long time probably, because all the input I had during the days that I'm working, but yeah, that's when they pop up.
Okay, good tip, good tip. And then for tips, is there an important lesson you learned in all those years you have your own practice that you like to share with the community?
Lots. Yeah, that's the thing. When you start out as an entrepreneur, I mean, I had no idea where to start when I began. I just began and I thought, well, and now I had a website and nothing happened, and there was totally naive concept. But yeah, I'm self-employed now for 10 years. Yeah, I'm a studio for 10 years now, so I've learned quite some things through the years. I think my main advice is always to listen to your gut. That is the intuition again, because I try to ignore that voice in my head and that feeling with some projects I accepted or started on, and there were some warning signs which I ignored. And afterwards, when I look back, I should have known it, or yeah, stopped it at the beginning. I should have just said no, you know. So now I try to really listen to my gut feeling and when I make choices. So of course also rationally, but I think my intuition is a very big part of it. I don't want to work on projects or engage with people that don't have your best interest at heart, or you're just not a match. That's also possible. But by saying no to things, I also think you don't have to shy away from difficult things that you find scary, or you really have to like push your boundaries a bit and get out of your comfort zone. Because a couple of years I was asked to do a first lecture, and I haven't done it since graduating, I think, and it really scared the hell out of me. But I was so flattered that they asked me that I said, well, let's do it. And I think I didn't sleep for 4 weeks because I was so nervous. But then again, 2 years later, I did a TED Talk. So, you know, yeah.
Super.
So also say yes to things you're really afraid of, as long as your intuition and gut feeling says yes. Yeah, and also think grow slow. Don't try to grow too fast, and yeah, never stop.
Why grow slow and not too fast?
I think when you grow slow, you have a steady base. And also, I think you can navigate with all the changes within yourself and the economy and the industry, everything. Yeah.
So you have time to get into pace with the things that are happening and feel secure with the things you're doing. So you have a...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and you can also pivot to the other side when things are not working, you know. So, yeah, that's
okay.
My advice.
Those are very good advice.
I have plenty more, but I won't bore you with that.
Oh, we will organize another one. It's no problem. Last question. What dream do you have for your company? And maybe what dream, maybe it's the same, maybe it's another. What dream do you have that the CCD-NL and ICAT community can help you to achieve?
Well, my dream is quite big, not just for my company, but even bigger for the industry, for the textile and fashion industry itself. My dream is to have an industry that is eco-friendly, not polluting, and also not exploiting. And I think that's my biggest dream, and that's what I work towards. Yeah. So I really want to work with nature and not against it, and work with people and not exploit them. So that's the main focus and the main goal in my design practice and for the industry. Those are my hopes. Yeah. And I think with CCD-NL, I think designers and artisans can really make some lasting changes in this way. And by preserving this heritage, but also creating new traditions and new symbols, new symbolism, and a new design language that is future-proof, can really help in this. Yeah. And maybe, yeah, that's maybe another subject, but when you talk about the projects that CCD-NL does with Japan and with Indonesia, those are, of course, two countries we have a long relationship with the trade history, but also the colonial history. So maybe by working together, by creating ICATs together, perhaps by Dutch designers and Indonesian designers and makers, we can maybe even process the colonial history by developing new symbols and new traditions.
Yeah, and take a step forward in some more bright future and some...
Yeah, in a really even and honest, collaborative way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like super ideas and super hopes. And I really want to thank you for this interview and this insight. I found it very interesting to get a small grasp of your design field and your view on things and your hopes for the future. And I found especially inspiring how something starting so small with a big hope as an individual can grow to something so big, just because you're inspired or have an idea and talk the right language, and people recognize it. And thank you for this interview.
Thank you too.
And I hope to talk to you later and keep in touch.
Yes.
See you later in the after talk.
Yeah.
For questions and answers.
Yes. Looking
Thanks.
forward.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Julita Otoyo. I am a lecturer and PhD candidate from the University of Bonn in Germany. My dissertation is about Indonesian traditional ikat from the perspective of art, historical, and design. Today, I would like to share with you the profile of the 3 artisans in NTT that we collaborate with. First is Alfiana Boydau. She is an artisan from Belu. In 2017, she established a group of weavers called Wahor Hadomi. She used natural dyes in making the ikats and also trained other artisans in doing the ikat with the natural dyes. She has attended exhibitions in Indonesia, in Jakarta, as well as in the Netherlands. Through our donations, last month CCD-NL gave donations to Wahor Hadomi Group in the format of yarn, so they will be able to produce another ikats and keep the tradition alive. And we also help them during pandemic situation. Second artisan that I would like to introduce today is Marsa Fatu and Asmawet Fatu. They are ikat artisans from Rotendao, and they are specialized in weaving Rotendao ikat motifs. They are also designing clothes using that motifs. She uses both natural and non-natural dyes, and Marsha designs a variety of fashion clothes using traditional Rotendao ikat. Asmawet weaves the original Rotendao ikat. The third artisan is Mrs. Syariat Tole. She is an ikat artisan from Alor, who is expert on natural dyes ikat in NTT. She has created more than 300 natural dyes and established an ikat group in NTT called Kampung Patola, which consists of 75 members, and also she is now active to train others ikat weavers using natural dyes around NTT. Now we will listen the interviews that being made by our team with the artisans. Enjoy.
What makes the usage of natural dyes vital for you, and what message do you like to tell the world by using them?
Saya memilih bahan alami karena bahan-bahan alami nyaman saat dipakai dan hemat biayanya.
How do you choose colors for your designs? Is this depending on the mood or the moment, or does it correlate to a particular design motif or pattern?
Untuk motif dan warna tergantung selera atau minat pemesan. Misalnya ujung tombak atau cumen disusun sesuai tahapan-tahapannya, lalu diikat kemudian diwarnai.
Asmawet, who taught you in the art of weaving?
Menjadi penenun mulai dari usia 13 tahun sampai sekarang. Dan tenun yang saya hasilkan setiap bulan berupa sarung, selendang, dan selimut. Dan hasil tenunan saya dijual sendiri di rumah. Dan ada juga pesanan dari kantor-kantor dan uangnya untuk kebutuhan sehari-hari.
And Marsha, who taught you being a fashion designer?
Saya mulai belajar mendesain baju tenun ikat sejak usia 25 tahun. Saya tertarik mendesain baju tenun karena hobi, dan saya menggunakan tenun karena ingin memperkenalkan kain tenun adat Rote ke dunia luar. Yang menginspirasi saya, pakaian batik bisa dikenal sampai luar negeri, pastinya kain tenun Rote juga bisa. Pelajaran yang saya dapatkan selama membuat baju tenun bisa mengenal lebih banyak orang. Harapan saya, baju-baju yang saya buat bisa dipakai oleh kalangan yang lebih luas. Dan CCD-NL bisa membantu memperkenalkan ke dunia luar.
Syariat, what inspires you most about ikat?
Tenun ikat karena mungkin itu kebudayaan juga. Kebudayaan, kawin mengawin, semua itu dari tenun. Makanya saya juga harus ambil itu, tenun.
Can you tell us an important lesson or wisdom that you learned during your career that you like to share with us?
Usia 7 tahun sudah tenun, dan yang mengajar itu ibu saya. Mungkin yang 9 warna yang ibu ajari, yang saya uji coba itu sudah menjadi 214. Juga maka saya rujuk itu untuk pewarna alam karena saya usia 6 tahun 2 bulan, bapak sudah almarhum. Saya hidup berdua mama, dan saya bekerja dengan mama hanya tenun ikat dan pewarna alam.
Do you weave precisely the same as your predecessors, or did you develop a personal distinction that is visible in your weaves or in your technique?
Tenun adat berarti itu khusus adat, itu tidak boleh rombak. Tapi kalau untuk pesanan berarti kita kombinasi warna, kombinasi motif, itu hanya kombinasi. Tapi untuk suku-suku itu tidak bisa.
Syariat, what dream do you have, and how can the CCD-NL community and ikat community help you to achieve this?
Kalau untuk harapan saya itu untuk yang kita bisa hadapi ini, dan tolong sampaikan ke media sosial, bisa bantu kami untuk anak-anak ke depan. Kesulitan anak kuliah, anak sekolah, bisa bantu kami untuk buka usaha untuk kami di luar negeri.
That brings us to the end of this webinar. So many designers, so many ways to create designs. We've taken a look at the most commonly used methods and inspirations. How cultural heritage, for example, visible in the ritual weaves of Shariat, plays a vital role in the inspiration and creation of ikat weaves in entity. We've heard how something that started small could become of significant influence with the Living Color project of Laura Luchman. And how design does not only cover being creative, but can also combine other disciplines like science through the process of Liedewij van Twillert. And importantly, we've seen how all interviewed designers feel the urge to reach a broad public with their works. I hope that this webinar gave inspiration for participating designers and artisans to widen their scope to various design approaches. But to all people participating in this webinar, I asked them to help spread the word on fantastic designs that are being created by designers like Selfie, Asmawet, Marsa, Shariat, Laura and Liedewij. And of course, other designers that you have and find in your surroundings. Design can be innovative, of influence and of cultural importance. So let us collaborate to raise awareness of its power. Thank you.
So we hope today's webinar will bring us together more understanding in the design method working from the personal fascination. I would like also to invite you to join our further programs. We have giving away a beautiful ikat face mask. This is as a gift of donation. Please follow our social media and visit www.give.nl. And also for Indonesia, please follow ikat.nl, and also for funding through kitabisa.com. Second, since CCD-NL also working with Japanese ikat, kasuri, so we will also have webinars coming in November 2020. It will be also followed by another series of webinar from Indian ikat, will start in December 2020. Of course, there is one more important event that we will have, is the third webinar from Nikkie Wester that will be presented in January 2021. So please mark your calendars and follow our social media for further information. Now we are at the end of our event. On behalf of the directors and the whole team of CCD-NL, I would like to thank you to all of you who is participating today. Special thanks to our speaker today, Nikkie Wester, Future Heritage Designer, Yeti van der Madehaning, Director from CCD-NL, Esther Munoz Gratveld, Program Manager, De Wasserij Rotterdam, Laura Luchman, Textile and Surface Designer, Liedewij van Twillert, Fashion Engineer, Artisan from Indonesia, Alfiana Boydau, Masa Fatu, Asmawet Fatu, and Shariat Tole. The dancer from Wahana Budaya Nusantara Dance Group, and Nisita Mirella for all your continued support. And our donators who make this event possible, donators from our crowdfunding, donator Mrs. Rahma Salo, and Picto Right Fund. Of course, thank you so much to CCD-NL team, volunteers and interns who work hard in organizing this event. And I would like to invite you to join the Zoom meeting will be held next after this. You have the possibilities to ask questions and discussions with our speakers live from all around the world. So see you then. Thank you.
Kembang